Picture this, it's a summer evening in Ireland, 1987. You're a mom, you've got two little girls at home, you wave them goodbye and say, see you tomorrow. And where are you going? A David Bowie concert. Nothing sinister, nothing dark, just a fun night out with a friend. You dance, you sing, you're just living your life. And then, out of nowhere, you vanish completely, like the whole city swallowed you up. No goodbye, no final call, just silence. That's exactly what happened to Antoinette Smith, a young mother from Dublin who walked into a night full of music and neon lights and never walked back out. And here's the part that makes people shiver. Decades later, Ireland is still asking the same question: what really happened after that concert? So let's meet the people in this story because the names matter. First, there's Antoinette Smith. She's 27 from Clondalkin in Dublin, and she wasn't just some random name in a file. She was lively, full of energy, the kind of woman who'd get up on the floor for Irish dancing and actually win competitions. She loved her music, loved a laugh, and yeah, she was known for dressing up, winning fancy dress contests back in the day. She was a mom who worked hard but still had that spark. Then there were her two daughters, Lisa, who was only 7 at the time, and Rachel, just 4. Imagine being that young and suddenly your mom's gone without explanation. They had to grow up carrying a hole where their mother should have been, and that absence still hangs over them today. Now, Antoinette's estranged husband, Carl Smith. The marriage was struggling, things weren't picture perfect, but when she didn't come home, he was the one who raised the alarm. He wanted answers, and instead he ended up under suspicion. His life was thrown into chaos too. And finally, the guards. Back then it was Bray Garda Station leading the search, with Detective Inspector Seamus Ryan trying to keep the case alive. To this day, the guards still circle back to Antoinette's name, still asking for tips because her killer has never been caught. These are the characters: a mom, her kids, a husband with questions, and investigators left chasing shadows. And from here, the night begins. So here's where it all starts. It's July 11th, 1987. Summer in Ireland, the kind where the big event of the season is a concert at Slane Castle, and not just any concert, David Bowie. Thousands of people pack the place, singing, screaming, losing their minds, and right there in the crowd is Antoinette with her friend. It's one of those nights that feels normal, even special. Music blasting, friends laughing, the kind of thing you think you'll look back on fondly. Antoinette is having the time of her life. Afterward, she and her mate grab a late-night bus back to Dublin. By the time they hit the city, it's around 11 at night. Long day, but nothing out of the ordinary. Now here's the part where most of us would go home, kick off the shoes, and crash. But not these two. Nope. They decide, you know what, let's keep it going. And they head straight for a nightclub, because of course they did. It's the 80s. Nobody wants to call it a night when the neon's still glowing. So the bus pulls into Dublin, and instead of heading home, Antoinette and her friend decide to hit La Mirage discotheque on Parnell Street. And if you know Dublin in the 80s, you can picture its smoky air, colored lights, music thumping so loud the floor feels like it's alive. People packed wall to wall, everyone trying to dance, drink, or hook up before the lights come on. Antoinette's in her element. She's laughing, moving through the crowd, just enjoying the night. And then she bumps into two guys she knows. Not strangers, guys she's seen before. They chat, share a few laughs, nothing dramatic, nothing alarming. Just the usual nightclub scene where everyone's acting like the night's never going to end. But then her friend decides she's done. She's tired, wants to leave. Before heading off, she hands Antoinette her house key, just in case Antoinette wants to crash at her place later. Seems like a simple act of kindness. But it also means Antoinette is now on her own. No backup, no one looking out for her. She stays in the club, keeps talking with the guys, maybe makes a call from inside. Nobody knows exactly. What we do know is that when her friend walked out those doors, it was the last time Antoinette had someone truly watching her back. Eventually, the lights come up in La Mirage, closing time. Everyone's spilling out onto the street, hunting for a cab, a chipper, or maybe one more adventure before bed. Antoinette leaves the club with those two guys she'd been chatting to. They're all heading in the same direction, making their way toward O'Connell Street, one of the busiest stretches in Dublin. They reach the taxi rank, and this is where things split. The two guys flag down a cab and head off toward Ballymun. Antoinette doesn't get in with them. Instead, she keeps walking down O'Connell Street on her own. Witnesses place her near the Gresham Hotel, moving toward O'Connell Bridge, and then nothing. That moment right there is the very last confirmed sighting of her alive. A young mother walking through the heart of Dublin city, and somehow she disappears without a trace. No screams reported, no scene, no quick intervention, just silence. And the chilling part? You'd think in such a busy area someone would have noticed something, but the city just swallowed her up. From that point on, Antoinette might as well have walked into thin air. Months go by. No word, no sightings, no answers. For Antoinette's family, it's like she just vanished off the face of the earth. Her daughters are still waiting for their mom to walk through the door. Carl, her estranged husband, is left with questions he can't answer. And the guards, they've got nothing solid to go on. Then comes Easter Monday, April 3rd, 1988. It's been nearly 9 months since Antoinette was last seen. 3 kids are out playing hide and seek near Wicklow Mountains in County Wicklow, close to the Lemmas Monument. They're just messing around, running through the trees. And instead of a hiding spot, they stumble onto something that stops them cold. They found human remains, and not just anyone's. It's Antoinette Smith. She'd been dumped in a remote, lonely spot in the Wicklow Mountains, a place far from the noise of Dublin city where her trail had gone cold. And here's the detail that makes your skin crawl. Her head was covered with 2 plastic bags tied tight with rope. Whoever killed her wanted to make sure she never stood a chance. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't random. This was deliberate. When the guards finally examined Antoinette's remains, they hit a wall right away. Her body had been out there for 9 long months, exposed to the elements on that mountainside. Rain, wind, animals, all of it had taken its toll. By the time she was found, she was so badly decomposed that the pathologists couldn't even determine an exact cause of death. But they did have those plastic bags. 2 of them pulled tight over her head, tied down with rope. That was the clear sign. This wasn't a disappearance, this was murder. Whoever did it had made sure to cover their tracks. And here's the part that makes people furious even today. The bags and the rope key evidence that could have held fingerprints, fibers, something were lost. Gone. Misplaced somewhere in the system. Imagine the one physical link to a killer just vanishing into thin air. It was like the investigation was kneecapped before it could even start. To make things worse, suspicion quickly turned toward her estranged husband Carl. The guards questioned him heavily. He was treated like a suspect, but nothing ever stuck. He wasn't even allowed to view her body at the morgue. Imagine that your wife is found dead, and instead of closure, you're shut out and looked at sideways, all while the real killer walks free. After the discovery, the trail went cold fast. With no cause of death, no solid evidence, and the bags and rope missing, investigators were left holding a case with more questions than answers. For Antoinette's family, it was like watching the system shrug and move on. But the thing about a case like this is it never really dies. Every few years, the guards circle back. They put out new appeals, begging anyone with even the tiniest scrap of information to come forward. Doesn't matter if you think it's insignificant, if you saw her that night, if you knew her, if you heard gossip in a pub months later. They've made it clear no detail is too small. And that plea has only gotten louder as time's gone on. 30 years, then 35, now closing in on nearly 4 decades, and the guards are still pushing. Still saying someone out there knows the truth, because the truth is in Ireland, secrets don't stay buried forever. People talk, loyalties shift, and maybe, just maybe, someone who's stayed quiet all this time might finally speak. Just when people thought the case was frozen in time, new claims came crawling out, and they weren't small. These were the kind of allegations that make you sit up and wonder how they were never fully chased down before. It came out that in the weeks before she disappeared, Antoinette may have been sexually assaulted. Not just rumors, actual claims that she confided in someone about it. And if that wasn't enough, there were also reports she was being stalked in a Dublin bar around the same time. Someone had taken an unhealthy interest in her, watching her, following her. For her daughters, hearing this decades later was brutal. Rachel, the younger one, called the new claims horrific. Lisa, the older, said the state failed their mother in life and in death. And honestly, you can see why. If she was attacked and stalked in the weeks before she vanished, then her murder might not have been a random act at all. It could have been part of a bigger pattern that everyone missed or ignored. These revelations cracked open the case again, forcing the guards to look back at evidence, re-interview witnesses, and ask questions that had been left to gather dust for far too long. It reminded everyone that this wasn't just a cold case, it was a case where justice had been delayed, maybe even denied. While the files sat gathering dust, Antoinette's daughters grew up. Lisa and Rachel went from being two little girls left behind to two women carrying their mother's story on their shoulders, and they never stopped pushing for answers. Rachel has spoken openly about how the new claims of assault and stalking hit her like a punch. To hear decades later that her mom may have been targeted before she vanished, she called it horrific. For her, it wasn't just about grief anymore. It was about anger that the truth might have been sitting there all along, hidden under layers of silence. Lisa, on the other hand, has been crystal clear in her criticism. She said the state failed their mom, failed her in life, and failed her in death. And when you think about it, she's not wrong. Missing evidence, no arrests, no closure. The system dropped the ball, and a family was left broken because of it. Every anniversary, every appeal, they're still there. They give interviews, they make statements, they remind Ireland that their mom wasn't just a name in a cold case file. She was a person, she was their mother, and her killer, whoever it was, never faced a single consequence. It's their voices that keep the case alive. Without them, Antoinette's story might have slipped through the cracks completely. Instead, it remains one of Ireland's most haunting mysteries. So here's where we're left. Antoinette Smith wasn't doing anything dangerous. She wasn't living on the edge. She was just a young mother who wanted a night of music and fun. She went to see David Bowie, danced at a nightclub, laughed with friends. An ordinary Saturday night. And yet that night never ended for her. Somewhere on her walk through Dublin, she crossed paths with the wrong person. Someone who made sure she never made it home to her daughters. Decades later, the killer is still out there, maybe gone, maybe hiding in plain sight, maybe even walking the same streets where Antoinette was last seen. Ireland has not forgotten her. Every anniversary, her face comes back on the news. Every new appeal, her daughters step forward. And every time the same chilling reality stares back, you can walk out the door on an ordinary night and never come back. That's the story of Antoinette Smith. The concert, the laughter, the city lights, all swallowed by silence. And until someone speaks, the echoes of that night will keep haunting Ireland.